Boy, it's going to be a great show today, Val. I don't know if you were aware of that, but it's going to be a great show today.
It's going to be a great show because it's the first Val Olson show of 2023. So that's a very special, monumental show, Greg.
Well, isn't it? Anytime we get into a new year, we got to be blessed that we're in a new year. A lot of people don't have this opportunity. Well, we lost a lot of folks in 2022, as we always do, and we all had our challenges in 2022. But this is a brand new year, and it's a brand new Val Olson show. I'm excited. I really am, Val.
I know it's cliche, but I like to set goals. I like to crush goals. So this year, I have a goal. And I think the goal is going to be just to just be myself, right? Like just be who I am and you don't have to change. You don't have to follow the trends because the trends are always changing, but I'm just going to be me. I think that's going to be my hashtag. Just be myself.
Well, isn't it what we hear is we need to be authentic.
Yes.
That people like authenticity with all faults, with warts and all, authenticity, because today's listeners and today's viewers and today's business people and today's CEOs can see through literally any kind of lack of authenticity. So if you've got a plan for 2023, I can't dream of a better one than to just be yourself. And you know why, Val? Because Val Olson is awesome.
Oh, that's really kind. I think you're awesome too, Greg. I mean, you just in your bag of tricks and what you're able to do, it's amazing. Like, you manage the generations. You talk a lot about that in your book, how
Right.
to work with the different demographics. And
Right.
I love that you've taught me things about the challenges working even with the youth. I use those skills all the time that I'm learning. So I'm really appreciative of just the friendship and mentorship that you've given me. So thanks, Greg.
Well, I mean, and that means so much to me. I can't tell you, Val. It means so much to me. But it really is what you're describing is, I think, what we should all be doing in the US, in Canada, around the world, and everywhere else nowadays. And that's looking for our commonalities, not our differences. I believe, I've said this a million times on the air and including on previous shows for you. I believe that we as human beings agree on 80% of stuff. And it's the 20% we disagree on. The 80% is family, God, kids, healthcare, safety, community, that kind of thing. And the rest of it, sadly, the other 20% gets all the mic time, gets all the mic time and the air time. So if your platform, Val, which I'm going to congratulate you right now. This is the first show of the year. This is a brand new Val Olson platform. New and improved every day, as we should all be, with that Toyota word Kaizen, which we can talk about another time. Continuous, daily improvement. And I want to congratulate you because this is a milestone, being your first show of the year, but really the first show of a brand new and improved brand. So kudos to you on that. Kudos to the effort you put into it, which a lot of people won't realize, Val. This show today and you sitting on your platform, to my knowledge, this has been in the works for about a year since I've known you. So if January 2nd, 2023 is known for anything, let it be known it's the day that Val Olson relaunched her media platform. How about that?
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. Yeah, it's been about a year, and it's a special space. It's a space where listeners can they can interact with. I want to give a shout out this morning to my great tech department. They are on the ball, and they're working frantically so that you have the latest valuable information. And we don't sleep on valolsonnews.com. It's 24/7. Uh, if there's breaking news that I feel you want to know about, we're going to be working it. Sometimes, behind the scenes. But this morning, we have a special guest that's going to be coming on soon. And very, very special guest, secret guest that, Greg, if it wasn't for you and just, you've inspired me. You've inspired the guests that are coming on my show. And honestly, these guests wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And just, the connections that you have to some of these guests and the personal history and how you've shown me that we, the individual, can go to anybody we want. We're living in a tech time of, don't be so intimidated. Don't be so threatened. Don't think that you can't talk to this person or talk to that person. So you're really behind that, Greg. That kudos to you. Job well done at helping me recognize, yeah, I can talk to this person or have that guest on. So we've got a very special guest, and truly, truly, Greg, it's all thanks to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, like I've said on other radio shows, you're going to get me misty and crying before I even start the show. I mean this. I so deeply appreciate your kudos. I really do. I really do. But remember, Val, remember, great leaders and team leaders and connectors, as you'll learn from our secret guest. It's not us. It's a team. It takes a village. No, it takes a team. It always takes a team. To have a baby, it takes a team. It's called a delivery team in the operating room. There are leaders. There are other roles. But bottom line, the old back to you, kudos on you for you jumped into the fray of wanting knowledge and information, and you were interested about it and stuff. And that it's kudos on you that you chased it. I mean, you chased a story, and it turns out, goodness, Val, there's one story here, and that's our guest today, our secret guest today. Are you kidding me? So that's like a job well done. A news person, and people in media forget this is not about them, right? It's about the story. It's about the guests, Val. And I'll be the first to say, and I mean this, since we're cooing over each other, and it's deserved. More of the mainstream media, more people in media need to be like you. There needs to be more Val Olson news in the media today, and that is a completely direct statement without emotion. And even if I didn't know you, because unfortunately today, everything we hear in the media, virtually everything, is affected or biased by something, whether it is political affiliation, whether it is advertisers and sponsors, because unfortunately, what often comes out over the microphone has been actually censored a bit or positioned a bit or tweaked a little bit because the advertiser wanted it that way or the sponsor wanted that way. So indeed, if this platform, Val Olson News on Twitter Spaces, honestly, as people will find out in the next hour, it's where new news gets its news, and we need more Val Olsons in the media, Val, and that is from my heart.
Well, thank you, Greg. I want to share a little bit here for a minute about our special guest. If you have ever used caller ID, you can thank my secret guest. If you have ever used OnStar, you can thank my secret guest. If you've ever used a map on your cell phone, you can thank my secret guest. And if your company has an automated phone system, you can thank my secret guest. So I'm just teasing you here because everyone's like, who is going to be on the show today? That's just a little bit about our special secret guest. And I want to remind you, valolsonnews.com, like Greg said, it is launch day, so be patient. Our secret guest is going to be dropping by when he gets here. In the meantime, we're just going to have some fun, Greg. And you touched on censorship. And I have been on the receiving end of it, and it can be discouraging. And maybe you, our listener, knows what that's like. And unfortunately, it's not like we can just beam a satellite signal to outer space and get through all the, political mumbo jumbo and all that stuff. We have to learn to communicate in new ways. And that's what valolsonnews.com is. My goal is just to keep it an open space where you can come for the best information, whether you're, a news executive or you're just a mom at home who wants facts and information. valolsonnews.com is where you can go to get the best when it comes to information. Authentic, honest, and real.
Well, I'll tell you what, it doesn't sound better than that. It doesn't sound better than that. That's a pretty darn good mission, pretty darn good goal. And you would probably be the first to admit, Val, that it's tough doing that. It's tough to be authentic. It's tough to bring new news. It's tough not to be affected by everybody around us. And I would just thoroughly enjoy really listening to more, not only today, but at future shows and stuff, because as you say, authenticity and just being down to earth and telling it like it is, that's a missing link in our world these days, Val. A missing link. So again, if people like you and I, and people like the Mike Phillips of the world on American Up Radio and other freedom loving people, that's our mission, is just to kind of get the word out there and educate people and do it with no pretense and do it with no ego, if that's possible. That might not be possible with our secret guest, but that conversation isn't for another day, Val. But here we go. I'm really, really looking forward to this today.
I am too. You just brought up American Up Radio Network. Why don't you take a minute, Greg, and just talk about the show that you're on, Dueling Citizens, on Fridays with Mike Phillip, American Up Radio Network, and just recap the year-end show, because it was really good. And take all the time you need.
Oh, goodness. You better not give me license to that. Give me all the time for Greg to talk. Man, I might not finish for half an hour, Val. You know that. But, thanks so much. Seriously, you. As you well know, I have a dear friend named Mike Phillip, and that's spelled Philip. Much like you, Val, I've known Mike for about a year. Mike is a radio broadcaster extraordinaire. He is the best radio person nobody knows. He is on the Americanuck Radio Network, just like it sounds, Americanuck Radio Network, and his really missions in life, and why I was so interested in meeting him and chatting with him, is number one, he is a pastor, and everything he does, he loves to preach the word of God. So when he's on radio, whoever his guests are, whatever he's doing on a daily basis, he always brings it back to goodness and believing in God and learning more about our world, the world we live in. But his kind of specialty is the United States versus Canada. The differences in the similarities. So goes the name Americanuck Radio, and he is probably the number one radio cheerleader, probably number one proponent, number one cheerleader for the Alberta 51 movement. That is the province of Alberta becoming the first state of the United States of America. And again, that could be three straight Val Olson shows for another day. But Mike and I were as it always goes, kind of spiritually connected because someone out there in the stratosphere heard that I wrote a book and I published a book. And the book, as you know, Val, is called Why I Came to America and What I Think Now. And it was comparing Canada to the United States in every way, because I can't believe how little Canadians really know about the United States and how little Americans know about Canada. As much as we think we're pretty smart and researched. So we were two people kind of on very similar planes, very similar missions. And within literally, Val, you know the story. But within literally, I think, a week after meeting him, I was live on a 2-hour radio show as a guest with Mike Phillip of American Rock Radio. And
Yes.
that was, Val, you might not even know this. That was 20 episodes ago. 20 episodes ago. So anyone who wants kind of a new, fresh American view of life, I really do recommend. Mike's a Monday through Friday guy. Monday, and I think they start at at 12 o'clock at noon Mountain Time, Monday through Friday. AmericanRockRadio.com, and Mike puts on a 2-hour show every single day, which is very cool. I am on weekly every Friday, and my segment, as you well know, is Dueling Citizens with Greg Meakin. And that, of course, is Mike Phillip and I bantering back and forth and back and forth and dueling in a fun, feisty way. But bottom line, bringing out incredible information, new information, research information, red meat every minute of the show. When the show isn't red meat, it is laughter and fun and joy. And the reason why it's now 20 episodes and counting, I'll be on this Friday again, Val, is because of the joy and the fun and the jokes and the camaraderie that Mike and I both have on the air together. Honestly, very much like the connection I have with you. So I'm just thrilled to just be kind of a part of that. And Mike Phillips and American Rock Radio, it's got a much larger reach than people think, broader reach, even like this show, where he is affiliated with the Stu Peters Network. They were an iHeart affiliate, but they're multi-shows. There's Mojo 50 in Dallas and other podcasts that carry Mike's show. And I'm guessing he's got a million person reach. But that's my little monologue on Mike Phillip and American Rock Radio, because it's so indeed near and dear to my heart. And I look forward to not only bantering with him, but you in the future. And of course, there'll be other radio folks down the road, but I'm happy to know him and I'm happy to know you.
Don't you love when you can call up a radio show host like Mike Phillips and he just answers the phone and you can talk to him, or you could email the show and they read your email live?
Yeah.
I just love that. I think it's a lost art.
Big time lost art, Val. Big time lost. Whatever happened to starting at Gen X and younger, the millennials, the Zs, and even the upcoming Alpha generation? They have never learned to use the telephone. They tend to not return emails, not return texts, not listen to voicemails, quote, ghost people for days or weeks or months at a time. And indeed, Mike Phillip breaks that mold. He reminds me so much, Val, of a real workaholic baby boomer, someone who's about 20 years older than he is. But if you email Mike Show, I think it's Mike at AmericanHawkRadio at gmail.com. He will respond. He will 90% of the time he will read your comment right on the air. He's the most accessible, really one of persons I've ever known in my life, and that's a rare trait. That's a rare trait to have. But it's his trait. It's my trait. It's your trait. And hopefully, Val, seriously, hopefully we can pass this on to younger generations, just like we're doing right now. If you are a Generation Z out there, or a millennial like my twin boys, okay, I really recommend to pick up your phone, okay? I recommend you answer your voicemails, okay? I recommend you stroll into an actual local business and say hello personally, not sit on your Google and shopping all day. You know what I mean? So if we
Totally.
can all teach younger generations that, then my mission's accomplished. My mission's accomplished if that's the case. So there you go on that one, Val.
GregMeakin.com. That's where you can get his book, Why I Came to America and What I Think Now. If you have ever used caller ID, you can thank my secret guest. If you have ever used OnStar, you can thank my secret guest. If you have ever used a map on your cell phone while you're parked, you can thank my secret guest. Or if your company has an automated phone system, you can definitely thank my secret guest. And I'm very, very excited to welcome our secret guest, Greg. Why don't you do the formal introductions?
Oh, do I have to? I'm not sure if I like the guest that much. Do I have to?
Well, there's history,
Oh,
right? There's history.
Val, I'll tell you what. Let's just cut to the chase here. Our secret guest today is a gentleman named Andre Fournier. Okay, 99.999% in the world people have not heard that name, and that's why this is where new news gets its news. I go back more than 20 years, really, as a personal friend and a business affiliate with Andre Fournier. I met him over 20 years ago in the Seattle area, and I really got to kind of try to get to know him better way back then when I heard that he had invented caller ID. And I said to him at the time, "Excuse me, what? You invented it? Caller ID?" And as I got to know him a little further and stuff, I realized, and I watched it myself, him developing GPS, standalone GPS into a cell phone, or, are you ready, OnStar. If anyone out there has ever heard of General Motors OnStar, well, you can thank Andre Fournier for that because he created it. He led the team of engineers. It took him 8 months, only 8 months, to develop OnStar from scratch. He did it in less than 8 months and under budget. Okay. And there are other technological things that Andre Fournier has led the world in. And the funny thing is, people will say, "Well, I've never heard that name." Well, of course you haven't heard that name. That's not his style. And as a matter of fact, I would wager, Val, this month, that maybe has ever done. I don't know, but you can ask him that. As you know, I got a copy because I like to prepare for shows if I can, right? And I got a copy of Andre's resume just to kind of research. I'd known him for over 20 years, and after his 3 pages, packed full of lifelong accomplishments and technological innovations and 8 patents and overseeing teams of up to 120, overseeing, being the leader. 120 engineers, software engineers. I read 3 pages of it, and I said to myself, "There's no way I can summarize this guy in a couple minutes on the radio." So, if anything, I would just like to introduce him, Andre Fournier. He and I go way back, and one of our connections was we're both from that little tiny town back east called Montreal. And believe it or not, we're both about the same age. And we were raised in Montreal, and we were raised it with hockey, with all of the same people and all the same experiences. And we just so happened to have bumped into each other in the Seattle area 20 years ago. And so I'm not only thrilled, but I'm thrilled for our guests, Val, to have my friend Andre Fournier on here today. And I don't know how in the world we're going to be able to crowd this information into an hour, especially with me talking. But we'll see about that. We'll see about that, whether it's just an hour. But Andre Fournier, that is with deepest, I mean love and respect, that I introduce him to Val Olson.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation, Val. You were well represented with my friend Greg. He said a lot of things about you, and I've been listening to your pod for the last 2 days, and I've been pretty impressed with some of the covers that you've talked about. A lot of good information, a lot of good truthful type of topics that needs to be addressed. And as far as Greg is concerned, he's been very, very kind. I mean, inventing is a big word. It takes a lot of people to come to flourish an idea and put it together and evolve it into something that's useful. And with everything else that you create, there's always some negative aspect of it that you have to manage very carefully. And as Greg pointed out, we've known each other for 20 years, and I've got a lot of respect for him. I mean, some of the respect has been growing from all of his accomplishment, especially when, as a hockey player, you want to make sure that your skills is shown to other people, and you offer ways for young people to get off the street and do something that's a lot of fun. And Greg was a catalyst in that in the Seattle area, to the point that, a lot of people invested in his idea, and he created one of the most advanced arena in the Seattle area. So thank you for the kind words, Greg. Appreciate it.
Anytime, my friend. We can just spend the next hour just catching up on old times, couldn't we, Andre? But we have a show to do, Val. I'll tell you what. Take over the show from here, Val. Let us know what you want us to chat about, man. This is fun already.
Well, I want to actually talk a little bit about hockey. Before I get into hockey, I am going to give the housekeeping rules, because I do have some just simple rules. First off, you two guys cannot start talking French, okay? Because I want to be included in this conversation and understand all of it. So that's rule 1.
Pas de problème.
And the other thing I want to set is just give our audience a time frame. I am so respectful of both your time, and I want to know what you guys think today for a timeline. Let's set that. So how does 59 minutes or so sound?
Okay.
Greg, what do you think?
That sounds reasonable to me. I don't have a problem with that.
That sounds reasonable to me. But I also know it's Val Olson show, and unlike the mainstream media, if it's really, really awesome, you can hold it over to a second hour. I can't dream that we will pack everything that I know we've got packed in today's show in an hour, but I'll just leave it at that. I would, if I were going to Las Vegas and putting a wager, I would say that we're going to be more than an hour. But let's start with 59 minutes. That's a great place to start, Val.
Okay, well, I'll
Yep,
start the clock and we'll check in at 59 minutes and see if both of you gentlemen are okay to keep going. So
that's fine.
here's where I want to start. Your CV, Mr. Fournier, is very, very impressive. I've looked through the package that I was sent, and I mean, you know your stuff. I mean, you're an inventor. Uh, you've been in all kinds of working scenarios. Like Greg highlighted some of these places that you've worked, things that you've created, things that affect our everyday life. Caller ID. I mean, I use that thing all the time. If there's somebody calling me I maybe don't want to pick up, I rely on that. So thank you for everything that you've created. But I want to go kind of through a back door. And I want to talk about the why and how you got to a place of being able to carry out, finishing, completing some of these inventions. And part of your package included a private picture. And that was the most important thing for me. That told me everything that I was looking for about you. So, would you be so kind as to go back to that very moment and that picture and what it meant to you?
The picture that I've sent to Greg is it was taken last year. If it's the one in my backyard, not my professional one, but the one I have in my backyard. It was a celebration between my wife and I. It was our 46th wedding anniversary, and we were in having some friends over, and we decided to take pictures individually and then together. So it's basically that's our hideaway, our places where we calm and relax ourselves after a hectic day when we do have a hectic day. And it's one way, it's also a place where our grandchildren tend to come over and fish in the pond in the back. And we haven't drowned any of them yet, but we may work on one or two later.
Well, we're going back farther than that. We're going to go back to, I suspect it was a graduation day. Based on the haircut in the picture, I would put you at maybe 18-ish.
Oh, yeah. Boy, that's a long time ago. Yes. That would have been December of 1974 when I graduated from my initial college. That's my mother with me. And I'm the oldest of 9 children, so the first one to go to college, as a matter of fact, the only one to go to college. And she was very proud. And I was kind of didn't want that picture because I'm not the type of person that liked a lot of broadcasting. But it's one of those that I cherish a lot.
I loved the picture.
She was supporting and everything is. Thank you. And I was a hippie then, and I played in a band, so my hair was long. And the one thing that's missing of that picture is I used to have a Fu Manchu that was 6 inches on each side. So she had asked me to shave it off, and I did.
I love that. And I love that you did it. In the picture, what jumped out at me was I could relate because as a mom, you and I have a 17-year-old, and you invest and you say things to your kids, and you hope that what you say sticks. And you went on to create all these
Yeah.
things. How did your mother impact that growing up? What did she say to you, things that you remember that really made a difference?
Well, it was both my parents were very strong in education for their children. My dad had a grade 9, and my mom had a grade 9 as well. And so my dad never wanted us to have manual labor. He always said we were intelligent kids and we should push. My mom, her support was, every time, when uh, I had to work to pay for my college. And so I worked on nighttime and I went to school during the daytime. So it made long days and no fun weekends. So she always made sure that I had some time to do things that I enjoyed. She always reminded me, sorry, I picked up something. She always reminded me, you got to invest now. Yes, it's difficult, but in the future, that's where you're going to value the time that you spent in school, and the knowledge you acquire here is really a baseline for what you're going to create later on in life. And so she always pushed me that way, and my dad was always the same way, you know. I told him one day I wanted to quit school. I was in grade 12, and he said, "Are you an idiot? You got 4 months to go before you finish school, and you want to quit school? Think about that." So, yeah, I was an idiot. I continued my grade 12. So, the parents are there to help, and mothers are always there to nurture their kids and understand that there's going to be some fallout. There's going to be some times where you need them to be there to listen and just listen. I mean, that's what she was. She was a sounding bar, and she was, my support and my direction.
I love that. Just be there as a parent and just
Yeah, yeah.
listen.
So,
Did you ever find moments of,
unfortunately,
go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Just as a parent, go ahead.
Sorry, we're on a
Go
delay.
ahead.
We're on a delay with Twitter. So, on that note, Andre, I'm going to have you keep going.
Oh, okay. So, you know, you're right. Parents are there to support their children, but the thing that my parents did for me, especially my mom, is that she called a spade a spade. I mean, if I did something wrong, she would basically point out the issue and ask me why and what should I do different. So she always brought the problem back on my lap rather than her taking it over and trying to smooth things down. And that's always critical because it gave me the tools. She was there to help me realize that, hey, when I do this, this is what happens. And my dad's view was always, you make an action, there's a consequence. And if you're not willing to take the consequence, then select a different decision. And so as parents, those sometimes, and especially today, I see this a lot, is parents want to protect their children. Protecting them is not going to help them. They don't know how to deal with difficult situations, and they have a problem with making, the right decisions. And when they make a wrong decision, it's not their fault. And if you can't accept that you've made a mistake, you can't fix the problem and you can't evolve as a good person anyway. So those are the type of things that my parents instilled in me very quickly, and that's what I did with my children too. I have a 44-year-old son and a 36-year-old daughter, and they know that. Like my son told one of his friend one day, his friend said, "Mr. Fournier, what would happen if you caught Christopher drinking and driving?" I told him, "I call the cops." He went, "You wouldn't." My son, my son turned around. My son turned around and said to his friend, "Oh hell, yes, he would." He says, "Not because he wants to punish me, is because he loves me and he knows that that's a dumb thing to do, and I need to realize it." So, if people would do that more often, maybe the kids today wouldn't have such a sensitive view of life.
Yeah. And Law and Order, it makes sense. And we try and instill these values in our children, but it almost feels like today parents are confused and maybe they're focusing more on being friends instead of, the job they have to do at hand. We get one shot to raise our kids. So I take it very seriously as a lifelong learner. I want to be a positive in my children's life, regardless of what age I am. And so that snapshot that I'm talking about of you and your mother on that special day, that monumental day, really impacted me, and it reminded me how some of the brightest minds in the world, it always comes back to pivotal moments of, maybe it was a mentor or a parent or somebody, but it was somebody else, that has just shared their values. And You never know what you'll go on to create. So let's move into some of your creations, your inventions. What are some of your memories or special moments with people that you've worked with that the world doesn't know until now?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up. What was your question again?
You've worked with all kinds of people, lots of teams you've been a part of. I want to know about some of the special moments that the world doesn't know about Andre Fournier and who he's worked with behind the scenes.
Oh, wow, that's a good question. There are so many people that I work with that had, working with people is not only working with people, but it's understanding their cultural evolution. I mean, I've had team. I was one of the first manager at Bell Northern Research to hire people in India. What's the biggest challenge? It's not only distance, it's also culture. It's also understanding that the English language is a great language, but it separates numerous countries. You go from the southern part of one location in the States to another northern part of the United States, and you say the same word and it means something different. So, uh, uh, and I've had people in China reporting to me. I've had people in Hungary. They all have, every one of them have had some impact on the work that we've done and in a positive way. There were some difficult time, but when you work with people, you have to treat them with respect, and you have to understand that they have a specific role in the organization, and your role as a person that manages them or mentors them is to provide them the guidance, and not by doing things, but by providing them the tools and the knowledge and the questions that they need to answer in order to move forward. I had a couple of mentors, and believe it or not, I've had the way I always selected my mentors is by selecting people that I really like, but also some people that I did not like. I had three mentors in at BNR. Mr. Roger Bushnell, that was my director. He always told me, make a decision, and it doesn't matter if you get fired or not. If the decision is right and based on your knowledge and you've done everything you've done, you should not fear anything. And that's been my motto. Another one of my mentor, George Smith, which is no longer with us, his view was that you have to get the most out of people, and the way you get the most out of people is by giving them the ability to make the decision and make errors and help them fix those problems, and take ownership for it. And there's a difference between being responsible and being accountable. And when you have somebody that's responsible, you also have to give them the accountability. Because if you give them the responsibility but no accountability, then they are really not the ownership of the situation. They're just responsible to get something done for you. And there's a mentor that I didn't get along with. And the reason why I selected him was because he had some quality that some people did not like. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't go down that path, because it's very easy to go down that path. It's easy to get a swollen head when you get a patent, your first patent. You go like, look what I've done. But don't forget, if you read my patents, I'm not the only name on those patents. There's 4 or 5 other people. See, it's a culmination of minds together and getting the best out of each other and understanding that you're not the only one that knows something about this. And that's critical. And so that mentor, I respected him, uh, and I did learn a lot from him, some of the things of what not to do. And also there were things he did that I thought were good, because sometimes when you start peeling the onion, you tend to notice that this person has reasons for doing what he's doing, and he's got some idiosyncrasies that you don't understand. And the more you study him and the more you listen to him or her, doesn't matter which one, because we're all equal as from a human being perspective, you get to know what makes them do certain things, and you go like, oh, I never thought about that. And it's same thing for parent, right? If your child, like, I'll give you an example. I remember my son giving me a hard time, and I got really annoyed. And I said to him, I said, I'm not mad at you. What I'm mad at is me, because I don't know how to act according to what that situation is. So how do I fix that? So you'll end up, working with people's mind a bit, which is a lot of fun sometimes. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, because it's really difficult to answer a question about things that people impacted you. Everybody that I touched in my career has impacted me one way or the other. And I hope it helped me get to where I am.
You did answer my question. From your CV, what really jumped off the page at me, because when you look at everything and your accomplishments, I mean, I like, how can you not be intimidated by your long list of just what you've made happen, how many patents? You use a word that just jumps off the page, and the word was nurturing. And that spoke volumes, because nurturing means what to you? What does nurturing mean?
Oh, nurturing is trying to it's trying to get people to understand the values they have within themselves. And how do you do it? By giving them a chance to make decisions that are sometimes complicated, and make them feel comfortable and confident that the decision that they make will move the yardstick either forward or even maybe backwards. No decision is a decision in itself. So if you don't nurture somebody to make a decision, they will not make a decision. And by default, that will be the decision. And that's always wrong as far as I'm concerned. You've got to make a decision that helps you move your yardstick forward. And when you help people move that yardstick by themselves, you're actually building their trust, you're actually building their skill, you're actually building their knowledge, and you're also building their belief that you have their interests at hand. And if you do that, people go miles for you. And that's not the real purpose of doing that, but they will. Um, I've got young men that I managed while I was in England, uh, that are today CTOs and presidents, and I still keep in touch with them, and they keep in touch with me, and that's close to 25 years, 30 years, because it was 1993, and that speaks volume of the impact that the type of movement that they did for themselves, and the type of skills that they've acquired. And I hope that I had a little bit of something to do with that. And even if it's just a little bit, it says a lot. And because they keep in touch with me, that tells me a little bit more.
So when you keep in touch with these people, when you get on for 5-10 minutes on the phone with them, what do you talk about? Where do you go? Do you go to the latest, greatest inventions, or do you talk about work-life balance or reminisce? What are those conversations like?
Well, it depends. I'll give you an example. Greg and I have known each other for 20 years plus, and we haven't talked in about 3 years. He picked up the phone. Hey, Andre, how are you doing? Um, it's sometimes it's just somebody wanting to talk to you about an opportunity they have, and I've had that. A career move. Sometimes it's just calling me and say, hey, I needed somebody to talk to. I just need somebody to just offload a little bit of the pressure I'm having, and I need somebody to listen to. That is just as critical as me giving you advice. Just listening. Sometimes you can just have that little nibble in that conversation that you can go and say, have you thought about this? And all of a sudden the whole the whole fog clears up and goes, yes, now I know what my problem is. I know what I want to do. I know where I'm going. I know the answer to this. So it's a diverse set of conversation. Sometimes it's just I've called people to wish them a happy birthday. I've there's a young man that lives in Sweden that used to report to me, Torbjörn, and I called him up about 3 months ago. It was his birthday, and I said, "Hey, just want to call you, wish you a happy birthday. I hope you have a great day." And and I left him a message. I got a call back about 3 hours later, and we had a 2 hour conversation about what he's been doing. So it's just been there. It's to me, the people I work with is not any different than my family. They're part of my life.
I love that. That is so good. Okay, I'm going to recap for a second. And, this Twitter Spaces technology is great, but occasionally we get really bad feedback. And, I think it might have stopped. Let me just do a quick line test. Greg?
I'm here, Val. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. Andre, can you just give me a quick mic check?
Mic check.
Okay.
I'm
The
here.
feedback is coming through Andre's line.
Okay. Is the feedback a dual talk or just
Well, it sounds kind of like we're in one of three places. I would say we're either in outer space or we are by a a waterfall. I can kind of hear birds. Um,
it's- oh, okay. Well, that's because I'm outside.
okay.
I'm not getting good reception, so I can go inside the garage and see if that's going to work better.
Okay.
Hey, Val. Hey, Val.
Is that better?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
Isn't it funny, Val, that you had to figure out the technology on that one for Andre Fournier?
Although it was nice to hear the birds and the waterfall in the background. I did enjoy it, but it was overpowering.
I do
Sorry
have
about that.
I do have a question for Andre, Val, whenever you get a minute here.
The floor is yours, Greg.
Andre, I don't think this is a question I've asked you. Can you hear me okay, Andre?
No, I cannot hear you. Just kidding.
No,
I,
no, no,
I,
no, don't get us started. Okay, don't get us started.
no,
I have a question I don't think I've ever asked you, my friend.
okay.
Reflecting on your high school graduation photo with your mom, okay? And I feel like I knew you back then because I had the same haircut and the whole shebang. You were French, I was English, but I won't hold that against you. Anyhow, my question to you is, even your wife, the wonderful Louise, took me aside one day and she said, "Boy, I'd love to have my husband's brain." And of course, I said, "Well, why would you want that?" Other than that, okay. But was there a moment in your life, Andre, and at what age? Okay, was it high school? Was it earlier? Was it later? Was there a moment where it hit you, where you said, "Goodness, I'm a really special guy. I have a real special gift. It's IT. It predates all of your accomplishments afterwards. But was there a moment where it hit you of what your gift was? Seriously."
No, and I still don't believe it. I mean, to me, it's, when I was at Nortel, we had a course called the Center of Creative Learning Technology, and they used to send maybe about half a dozen people a year from Nortel to this company in North Carolina. And that was the first time I realized that I had to slow down a bit. They had a kind of a clinic that you were put into a situation with five other people, and you would have to create an environment that changed drastically. And at the end of all that session, they had feedback from all of the people that were there. There was about 20 of us, and the message was very loud and clear on probably 10 out of the 15 people that I work with gave me the same message. Andre, you go from point A to point Z. You know how you got there. You know how to do it. You get it there. But sometime you got to slow it down because we can't follow you. And if we can't follow you, you're by yourself. And that's what I decided. Sorry, I got back up there. That's when I decided to, maybe slow it down and pay attention to what other people are, where they are in reference to where I am, and how do I bring them with me? Because that's critical. You know, yeah, if you want people to work with you, you have to help them get to the point where you are, and let them plow the road ahead with some of the ideas, and let them create some of the ideas themselves. But I've never seen myself as a person who was super bright. I just, it was just, I love to do things. And when I love something, it's like, you saw me play hockey. I know you tried to score on me a couple of times when you could, but, well, Val, he still skates with double blade skates. I mean, that's his problem. That's his problem. But all kidding aside, I coach hockey for 20 years, and I can tell you it's the most gratifying time is just teaching somebody to get it. Just get it. I mean, teach them how to get the right tools, the right thought, the right mechanics, the right process in their mind to be successful in something they love. And man, I'll tell you, that is much better than 15 patents. It's something that, you see people's eyes go like, holy mackerel, is it that good? And young people, young children today, if they had more people to mentor them and nurture them in understanding what they're capable. I mean, I hear a lot of parents, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Why? Just say, yeah, try it. And if they fail, help them pick up again. And maybe they try something else, or maybe they try again, or maybe they learn something. Uh, you know, my son was not the greatest skater in the world. He was not going to make it at NHL, but he wanted to play hockey, and he did. So, you teach them. And, the problem also is that sometimes we expect things from our surrounding to be the best at everything. And sometimes, as I used to tell my employees, we can't be all stars, but we can be all people that can help a star be a better star. But, you're still in the sky with them.
Wow.
So just great. As far as I'm concerned, I never considered myself to be a super bright guy.
So you're saying perhaps more than nature, it's nurture. You weren't necessarily, it wasn't just good genetics, that there was nurture that's brought you to where you got.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my dad may not have had a high school education, but he could speak 5 languages. He could take a car apart and put it back all together. He was a bright man. Was he well educated? No. But was he very knowledgeable? Hell yes. Could he recognize a problem? Yes. Could he fix things? Yes. Did he support 9 kids? Absolutely. So, to me, he was a pretty intelligent guy.
That's amazing. I love stories like that. I just want to get this straight, Andre. You could have been the IT guru behind Greg's state-of-the-art ice arena, but you chose to be youth hockey director.
Yep. Because there's a lot of people which are IT guru. There's a lot of people out there, young people, younger than I am, at that time that were just chopping at the bits to do this. And and Greg was kind enough to take them and and give them the job. I love working with kids. I really do. My son, I mean, my daughter, and there was a time where I played hockey with my son. That was the greatest moment of my life.
Why?
It's well, why? You get you. It's a special bond. You end up doing things with them that how do I say this? You end up doing things with your son or your daughter in something that you love, and they do that, and they end up loving it. I taught them how to play hockey from the age of 4 to the age of 18. I started hockey in North Carolina because of him. I started the youth hockey, high school hockey association in Texas, in Dallas, because of him. And when he turned 19, he was my defenseman. And, now we're peers. He's not my son, he's my peer. And I could tell you it was a lot of fun playing with him. And it was a lot of fun because he was, you'll end up looking at your child differently. You'll end up seeing him as a peer, as a man, as a hockey player. That's a lot of titles.
Wow. So I did some digging when I heard that you agreed to come on Val Olson News platform, Twitter Spaces, and share this side of who Andre Fournier is. I thought, well, I want to know what what makes him tick, or how did he keep it all together so that he could go on and complete these accomplishments, because this is big stuff. And for those of you that want to delve into this man's CV like I did, you can find it on my website, valolsonnews.com. But you got to go a little bit further to find out some of the stuff I was digging for from your past. And you are the guy that volunteers. You care about families at Christmas time. Like that is an important thing. We just went through Christmas season, and it's hard. There's many families come to points in their life that they never planned on, where they need to access a service of some sort. And you're this important person, top of your game, but yet you thought it was important to help families at Christmas time in need. Or how about children with attention deficit disorder? That's a label that really sucks. And when you get labeled as a kid, which so many do, it can be really defeating. And you were part of a scholarship program that recognized value where a lot of people just don't see value. Or children with special needs, with hearing impairments, that mattered to you. So it seems like you're the type of person that sees and finds value in very, very important things. And I'm not trying to blow over your credentials and your patents. I like high five. I'm impressed. I really am impressed. But it's more what makes you accomplish that stuff. And I want you to talk about your volunteer work and what you're passionate about and why you invested in those programs.
Wow. Well, they say that every great person is another person's Tenny. Hello?
Hello.
Am I still
You're
on?
on, loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay. Good. It seems to cut out once in a while. I think that it's when both my son and Ella Louise, my wife, are hearing impaired, and my daughter is bipolar. So it's close to home, and my family, I got two of my my siblings, which are also has mental disorders, and it's impacting them really, really bad. And if we don't pay attention to these type of challenges that these people have, uh, they can't surmount it by themselves all the time. I mean, Eloise was really the person that got me involved in these type of things because she felt it was critical, and she felt very closely tied because of our daughter. We had to institutionalize our daughter once because she was becoming extremely violent. Those are tough decisions to make. You don't make that by yourself. I mean, we talked about it at great length. So, you look at that and you look at the person, you take a step back and go like, what do I do about this? As a parent, what do I do about it? And I can ignore it and let the child fend for themselves, or I could try to help them. And the only way I know how to help them is by, working with programs that uh, work these issues. There's the National American of Mental Disease. That's an association for people that have children that have bipolar issue or schizophrenia. And you go to one of those sessions, and it is heart-wrenching. So you want to help them, and you as an engineer, my biggest challenge when I found that out was, as an engineer, it's logical or it's not logical, right? I mean, to me as an engineer, things are logic. It either works or it doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, I want to fix it. Well, you can't do that with schizophrenia. You can't do that with bipolar. You can't do that with ADHD. You can put medicine there, but it's just a band-aid. It doesn't solve the problem. And a lot of the times, those young people, they tend to be ignored because parents don't know how to deal with them, and society doesn't know how to deal with them either. And students and young people don't understand how to deal with that either, and they get extremely aggravated. My grandchildren live with me right now. I got two of them are autistic, and one of them that's got some personality issues. And they're beautiful kids. They're a lot of fun, but I'll tell you, there are handfuls and a half. So how do I help them? I can't put a brain transplant, but I can help. I can help them get further in education by giving them a support environment that says, "Hey, this is not this is not that you're a bad person. It just means that you're a different way of learning." Louise actually homeschooled Kimberly, my daughter, because she couldn't be in a normal school system. Uh, there was always a problem, and so by taking her out of the school and putting to what they call a hybrid school system, where Louise taught her during the week, and one day a week she would go to a school class to get her homework and everything else, helped her tremendously. Not every parents can do that. There's going to be programs for that. So I'm very tied into this because, as an adult, um, it's okay. Uh, but as a young person of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, they are influenced by so many things, and this is where we need to interject as a human being, as a parent, as a person. And just because they're not my child doesn't make them any less important, and that's why I'm tied into it.
There's a lot of nuggets. There's a lot of wisdom there. Greg, do you have any questions or should I keep going? I don't want to steal the whole show here.
Oh, oh no. Number one, I mean it. I'm loving listening to this because I've learned probably three, four, five things about my friend Andre Fournier that I never knew before. And that's the whole point of life, isn't it? That's the whole point. Learn stuff each day. And I'll be very honest with you. I'll be very honest with you. I got a little emotional here today, Val, when when Andre was talking about his son, because I know Chris, and shame on me. I'm one of those guys I can't get through a field of dreams movie Field of Dreams without crying, you know. But I want to thank him for that. But I want to thank you, Val, because by interviewing Andre, I've learned a lot of things about him I didn't know before. What I would like to do, if possible, I just want to, if possible, because I want to get back to this. This is deeply emotional chat, and as we say, I'm appreciating my friend Andre more than ever before. But I want to switch gears a little bit, and if you'll allow me, and Andre had the greatest story I've ever heard, and I only heard this recently, about mistaken identity slash identity theft, but mistaken identity. And it involved the RCMP. Okay. I really would like to turn the mic over to Andre and share that story. I'd never heard it, Andre, but I know for a fact that my pal Val will really enjoy that story. Would you entertain us with that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So this goes in 1977 when Louise and I were first got married. Louise and I had a very short, what they call courting. We met in November of 1975. We were engaged in, February 13th of 76 and married in August of 76. So that's 46 years ago. But in 77, we moved to Montreal, and one morning I got a knock at the door, and I opened the door, and there's two RCMP there. And one of the RCMP says to me, says, Andre Fournier? I said, yeah. He says, you're under arrest for fraudulent activity against the federal government of Canada. I was like, what? And he handcuffs me. And Louise goes, this is my husband. Well, he's never done anything like that. And the RCMP goes like, well, how long you been knowing this man? Well, we've been married 6 months. Well, ma'am, you should get to know your husband before you marry him. And I go like, oh, time out. I want to see the arrest warrant first before we start jumping to a conclusion here. I didn't do anything against the federal government of Canada. So he shows me the arrest, and it's for an Andre Fournier, but Andre A. Fournier, living at 6817 Boulevard Provencher in Brossard, Quebec. And I said, you got the wrong Andre Fournier. My name is Andre F.A. Fournier, and I live at 7816 Boulevard Provencher. You're about 4 blocks down. And the guy goes, oh my God, can I see your driver's license? I showed him my driver's license. And Louise goes, see, I knew my husband didn't do it. Don't come and tell me that I didn't know my husband. So they uncuffed me. They apologized profusely. And I go like, guys, first, before jumping to conclusion, read the address and then ask me what my full name is. And so that was a little bit scary initially because, just to follow up, I've been arrested once in China and put into jail, and I can tell you that is not a lot of fun. So
Can you tell
that's a
us?
different
Can you
story.
tell us about that?
I was in a meeting with my team in Shenzhen, China, and I've been staying at the hotel for about a week and a half. And I was in the middle of the meeting with the CEO and a couple. At the time, I was a chief technology officer for a company in Seattle, and I had about 120 people reporting to me. And we were in a conference room discussing the plans, and we got a knock on the door, and this young lieutenant comes in, and she says, "Is Andre Fournier here?" in Chinese. And Mr. Wong says, "Yeah, he's right there." So she comes over to me in bad English. She says, "Mr. Fournier, you are under arrest for being in the country illegally. Now come and tell me why the hell they don't have gates in the United States, but that's different. We're not going to go down that path." So I got arrested. I was brought to the border, and they said, you have to go back to Hong Kong. I said, I don't have to go back to Hong Kong. I'm a Canadian citizen. I can get a work visa right now, right here. So the young lady said, oh, you're a Canadian, no problem. 500 RMB. So I gave her 500 RMB. And she throws 200 RMB back at me, and she says, I do not take this type of money. It was Taiwanese dollars. They don't take Taiwanese dollars there. So I opened my wallet to put the money back in my wallet, and she goes, oh, you got American dollar. And I went like, Why? So we take American dollar. I said, now that's interesting. If I was an American, you would kick me out of your country, but because I got American dollars, you'll take my money. And she got mad. So Mr. Wong paid for the fine, and they took my passport to put a new work permit in it. And when they came back, they said, we can't put a permit in your passport because you ran out of paper. And I said, well, just put it over the old one. And that's where I got arrested and thrown in jail because that's completely illegal. So she had enough of me. So I spent the day in jail. I called Louise. I said, make sure you call the Canadian Embassy because I'm in deep trouble here. And so the young lady wanted to walk away with my passport. And she says, I got to go in the office. I said, well, leave my passport here. She said, no, no, no. I said, no, you're not leaving with my passport. My passport stays right here. And she says, what, you don't trust me? I said, no, I don't. I said, I want my passport. So at the end of the day, they brought me onto the ferry to go back to Hong Kong, and she gave my passport to the captain. And she told the captain, don't give him his passport until he gets into Hong Kong. As we got into the China Sea, captain gave me my passport, and he looks over. I was in first class, I might add. He looks over the window. He says, Mr. Fournier, there's only two ways to get off this boat. One is in Hong Kong, and he looks in the water and says, you don't want to swim in this water. So that was. So I went to the Canadian Embassy in Hong Kong, got new pages, and I went back and got a new stamp for my work visa. I came back Monday morning, gave me my passport, and guess who's looking at my passport? That same woman. So she let me in. But you don't want to spend any minute in Chinese jail. I can tell you that.
Talk about an exciting day at the office.
Yeah, yeah, and I wasn't alone in the jail cell, so that was not too. The guy couldn't speak English, so that was not a lot of fun.
Through your 40 years inventing technologies,
Uh-huh.
has there ever been a target on your back, or has your wife ever experienced anything unusual being married to an inventor? I imagine there's got to be some targets set on your back, given what you've accomplished and made happen.
Well, there's always people that are try to negate your experience and knowledge, or tries to minimize your what you've done in your career. And I don't care if you're an inventor or yourself, Val or Greg or whoever's a listener. You've been through some times where people want to discredit what you've done uh, just because of jealousy. Um, and I always say to people, my name is on 8 or 9 patents, but there's other names on there too. And it's always the sum of it all. It's never just yourself. Um, you know, your part of your knowledge is added to other people's knowledge. I mean, I'll give you one example. We have a patent in that is in the OnStar. Did we create the OnStar platform? No, we did not. Motorola and Airbiquity, the company that I was CTO, we built a product together. Our technology, the Airbiquity technology, allows data to be sent in your voice when you're making a call on OnStar. That is an extremely difficult technology to do simply because the technology used in digital cellular network is what they call a continuous learning technology. And what that means is that when you talk on the phone, the vocoder inside your phone is listening for patterns. And usually your voice is not patternized, so it's not listening to your voice. What it's listening for is a noise that's always constant, like a 60 hertz or 120 hertz, or just a noise that's continuously the same sound. And what it will do after a while, it will clip that sound right out of your voice because it's learned the pattern. And once it knows this is a pattern, it removes it out of the voice path. And what Airbiquity did is was able to fake the vocoder to think that it was part of the voice and able to send data from your car two OnStar things like, your brake sensors, are you wearing seatbelt? Is your carburetor, your fuel injectors working properly? Your car, the majority of the cars from 2000 and on, or even before that, before that, I've got over 500. As a matter of fact, BMW's got over 2,000 sensors in the car. Mercedes-Benz got a fiber optic in the car. So all of those things are monitored. And so, it takes much more than just me to put a patent together. I need somebody who understands fiber optic. I need somebody who understands CDMA. And we get together and we build a patent that says, by using all of these methods and all this knowledge, this creates this invention that's never been done before. When you create a patent, it has to be innovative and it has to be unique. And because when the patent gets sent to a patent office in the US, it gets compared across millions of other patents. And if it does have any type of resemblance of another patent, it's called prior art, you have to defend that. Secondly, when you do a patent, like if I did a patent, I put the R3 name in, just because we're friends, the patent would be disallowed. Because if either one of you do not understand the patent, you're not allowed to be on the patent. So a lot of people tends to try to discredit your name. Have I had some target on my back? Absolutely, I have. What do I deal with it? I don't care. Because I know what I've done. I know what I'm capable of doing. And I know what I've done with all the people that I work with was identified as unique, innovative, and the government has certified it. And I don't care what you say about it. That's my attitude. I don't waste my time on people that are naysayer because there's plenty of that in the world. And I don't have time for that. I only got one life. As I told my wife one day, I only have one life. Let me live it with a blonde. She is blonde, so I'm okay.
Good answer.
I have a question now. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Andre, honestly, you're teaching me more about you than even I knew. Very interesting. You brought up cars, and I really want to touch on that a second because I'd like to reflect back. I think you might remember this. This was a phone call probably a year or two ago that you had made to me or I made to you, and it was a couple of years ago. So you probably forgot it in your old age now, But I want to reflect on that phone call. You were in Paris, and I think I was still up in Washington State, and you knew that I was a car guy, forever and ever. But you were, and you can just have to catch me up on this and review it. You were in Paris because you were invited to be, if I remember, chairman of the basically international environmental whatever. And I want you to just repeat this to me. Where we were talking, and we were talking about automated cars. And you knew, it's funny, on the phone, you knew that I'm a real traditional old school guy. I still, to this day, I drive a 1997 vehicle, an old car, because I don't want anything more complicated in my life. But you had said to me, and I'll almost quote here, Andre, you said, I was invited here, Greg, to Paris to chair this committee. All the movers and shakers in the really auto world, enviro world. And you said to me, quote, I said, Greg, the world is going automated. Cars are going automated. And here you go. You said, even though you won't like it, you don't like it, that's where it's going. Can you comment on that? And do you, by chance, remember that conversation? I know it was a long time ago for you.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's who are you again? It's it was at the time. You're right. I was asked to chair my last 5 years of my career until 2009, I represented Amphenol in an association called the Next Generation of Mobile Network. And this was all the world carriers like Chinatel and Koreatel and KMW and all those guys created this association so that we could talk about architecture of the 5G, so that they have a common platform across the world, frequency, power, the whole works. And they wanted to talk about autonomous cars. And they had asked me if I would chair it with it was a tri-chair. There was myself from the network perspective. There was a gentleman from Chinatel, and there was a gentleman from BMW. And we talked about autonomous, and autonomous cars is really a little bit of a mixture. People talk about autonomous car, and to be honest, and I don't mean to offend anybody here, but a lot of people don't know what that is. There's driverless cars. There's I think it's about 10. Yeah, there's 10 layers of autonomous cars. So if you have a new car like a Toyota, like I have a Toyota Sienna, and it has lane deviation, notification of side, backup camera that allows me to and notifies me if somebody's coming my way. That is a level 1 autonomous. It allows the driver to it assists the driver and become safer on their drive. Is it autonomous? It has some autonomy to it because it makes decision for the driver saying, "Hey, there's somebody in front of you," like the smart cruise control, where it gives you a distance. It allows you to have a distance between a car in front of you. It will automatically brake for you if it sees a car stopping and you're too fast. It has some autonomy because it makes decision for you by sensors and radars and so on. The closest one that's fairly autonomous is the Tesla. There's another one called the Rubix. GM is coming out and Ford is coming out with it, but they're not fully autonomous because they need a map. They use the map system as a guideline for the car to be driven. So you can actually let go of the steering wheel and it will drive for you, and it will actually do a lot of the driving. I would use that on the highway more than anything else, because if you use that in the city and they have construction, then you have a bigger problem because the autonomy won't recognize the construction. The next generation, the generation of 8, 9, and 10, will be when the car actually communicates with the network, the 5G network or the 6G network, which is currently in session. And what it will do is it will allow the car to be notified of accidents and detours and so on and so forth. I believe that autonomous is there already, but it will always need the human being there. In Singapore, they have autonomous cars, and I remember landing in Singapore and being picked up by a taxi, and there was no drivers, absolutely no drivers in the car, and it was automated, and there was a gentleman from the dispatch asked me where I wanted to go. I told him I was going to go to this hotel. Now, it's an hour and 20-minute drive to the hotel with no driver, and I'm sitting in the back seat, and I start to read about it, and that car has some decision to make. Guess who is the number one priority in the autonomous car? The pedestrian. If it sees a pedestrian and it has a camera and it knows a human structure by algorithms. If it notices a person in the road, it will crash the car rather than hit him or her, which means that whoever's in the car may get damaged. That's immaterial because the car saved the pedestrian. So there will always be a need for somebody to be there to make decisions in the car. It will drive itself, but somewhere along the line, it's like an airplane, right? It'll give a point A to point B, it'll fly you there, but the automated pilot will not land you. You will get the pilot to land you because of all the unknown unpredictability of the landing or the driving is not computerized. And so you have to do that. It was a really interesting committee because we talked about, when you get into these committees, you talk about, oh, this is what it's capable of doing. Here's the function. Here's what it's going to do. Here's the way we're going to implement it. We're going to add more sensors. We're going to add this. We're going to add software and so on and so forth. But then you start talking about, what about security? There's a lot of hackers out there. If you're sitting on the network, what's going to prevent somebody to take over your car? How do you prevent that? How do you prevent somebody from changing the parameters in your car? How do you prevent somebody from uploading software in your car? And all those topics are never talked about. And they're still there. And the people will have to, the car companies are going to have to take care of that. Because car companies, the automotive industry, their primary goal in life is not to get sued because it's their fault. So they don't take a lot of risk. That's why the OnStar platform was difficult for us initially, because we had to guarantee you could get a phone call through if there was an accident. The automotive industry does not want to be caught in a situation where the car is at fault. The car manufacturing had a defect in it. I mean, think about the tires with Ford. Think about the Pintos with the Ford, and the Bobcats and so on. The Corvair. I mean, all those cars had problems, and companies got sued because there were some dangerous design in it. Same thing with the autonomous car. Are we there? No. I think we got another 5, maybe 10 years before we have an autonomous car. And who says it's going to be a car? Maybe it's going to be a small drone. I like to think a little bit further out. I mean, if you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of people working on small drones, motorcycle drones. They don't even have a road; they're above the road. What's the FCC going to do? Just got you to think about that. And Greg, I still have my 2003 MR2 that my wife bought me, and that you signed up all the papers when we lived in Seattle, and it's the best little car I ever had, and I won't sell it.
Do you remember your first car that you bought from Greg?
Absolutely. It was there was a young man called James Alemani. He was a Bremerton Toyota, and we've had Toyotas for a long time, and Louise was getting her Sienna fixed, getting an oil change, and I saw the MR2 in the show, and James says, "Hey, why don't you take it out for a drive?" So okay, so I took it out for a drive. I brought James to my place, and Louis says, "Nope, you're not doing that. You're not buying that. Last time you had a car like that, you nearly killed yourself. You're not doing that." Okay, because I used to do rally racing when I was in high school, and I had a Datsun 510, and so I said, "Okay, not a problem, honey. I don't need the car anyway. I'm going back to China." So I went back to China. And unbeknown to me, I come back in December, and she says, "I need another oil change in my van." And I said, "You got to stop driving your car, honey." And she said, "No, I'm not." So we went to Bremerton, and James is sitting there looking at the car, and my good friend Greg, which I hadn't met at the time, comes out and looks at me, and James says, "Well, why don't you take your car for a ride?" So come on, James, my wife doesn't want me to buy that. I said, I don't have time for that. So Louise says, no, take your car out for a drive. And I looked at her and I looked at James, says, "Yes, I bought it for you for Christmas, but you have to sign the papers." So that's how I met Greg. And so I still have that car. I've yet to have a ticket for it. But yeah. And Greg and I go a long way. I mean, he's one of the very few people that, and I'm going to throw a couple of flowers on his side, but he deserves them. When he built that rink in Bremerton, he had a lot of naysayer in front of him, and he wanted this thing done. And when he was done, he had, a gentleman called Jean Béliveau. And for those of you that don't know who Jean Béliveau is, probably he is one of the greatest hockey player I've known. Not because I'm a Montreal Canadian, but because this man was a good hockey player, a really good hockey player, but he was a very, very good human. He called Greg and congratulated him on opening that rink. And this man is very well off. He was a general manager and president of the Montreal Canadian hockey team. He played hockey. He's got his name on the Stanley Cup, 12, 14 times? Quite a few of them as a player and also as a general manager and president. To call Greg in Seattle, congratulating him on opening a rink, that says a lot. And even to this day, I think, Greg, you still keep in touch with Miss Billable, correct?
Yes, I have been. I've been blessed to stay in touch with her. Yes.
Yeah. And those are people that, that's the type of person that you want to be. Doesn't matter how high you are in a society, you recognize the people that are doing good to keep that society sane. And if you can't do that, then you don't belong in a society. That's the bottom line. And it's we got to take responsibility and be accountable for what we do in the society. Because yes, we do have family, but society has a major bloody impact on our kids.
Yes.
And sometimes, I take a look at teachers and so on and so forth. There are times I'd like to reel them in a bit. I think they should educate our kids, but educate them so that they have the base to work hard, not the base to make kick people out for some reason or another. So that's what I'm going to say on that.
Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I'm going to have to get the Kleenex out. Andre talking about Jean Beliveau, goodness gracious. Thank you. Honestly, my friend, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'll switch gears real quick, just as a quick question to Andre. I don't know if I've asked you this, but I think I might have. Did you actually meet Elon Musk? And can you tell me about that?
Yes, I met Elon Musk on 2 conferences. He was a guest speaker there. One was at the satellite and at NASA. As you know, since I retired, I'm an industry mentor for the National Science Foundation. I volunteer with Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt Venture Lab programs. And I was fortunate enough to be invited by the Satellite and NASA Conference Committee. And Elon was one of the guest speakers, and I met him. We had some conversation. He's a very bright man, a little bit of an eccentric, but he's not any. The way I look at it is, I look at Bill Gates and I look at all those guys. They worked hard to get where they want to be, and do I agree with everything they've done? Nah. Do I agree with some of the stuff they've done? Yeah. Do I value the advancement in technology that they have done? Absolutely. And he made some statement during the conference that some of the Army boys didn't feel too comfortable with, but he's a visionary, and sometimes visionary tend to make statements that want to shock people into place. Like the statement I made, that I said, and I don't get me wrong, I'm not calling myself a visionary, but the comment that I made that, who says that car will have 4 wheels? I mean, they could be drones. They could be, they could be Jetson. There's nothing, the technology is there, our brain is there, and Elon Musk has got that capability. And he's a risk taker. I mean, he bought Twitter. And look what he's done with Twitter. Yeah, he laid off a whole bunch of people, but he also opened up the commode. And there was some stuff in Twitter that was going on that is good to be revealed. And so, those type of people are not afraid to take the risk. Sometimes I wish he would be a little bit more sensitive to the human side of it. But, that's not, I don't know if you ever met Bill Gates. I have. And he was an eccentric guy.
Oh,
And so I don't know if you ever met Job. Job was an interesting guy, but if you listen to Job talk, if you go on YouTube and listen to some of his his questioning and so on and so forth, very bright man. He had the right idea on how to get people to do things. He always said the sum of everybody is what results in a success. And you know, it's it's Elon is very similar to that, but sometimes I find that he is not as sensitive to the human side of things. But he has a vision, and if you believe in that vision, then you know what your role is. You need to either participate or get out, and you always have that choice.
I have a
Andre, I have a
question.
fast follow. I have just a fast follow-up question. I think I'm even interrupting Val, but on the Elon Musk side, just before I move on here. Uh, I'm going to be writing about him stuff because a lot of people don't realize Elon Musk is the first Gen X. I mean, he's a Generation X to me, and I'm infatuated with the generations. But there are two Gen Xers, I believe, that have kind of, and there are more, but kind of really impacted, changed the world. Number one was Barack Obama was our first Gen X president, and Elon Musk is our first Generation X, kind of Henry Ford size of visionary. Um, do you think that Musk, a little bit of Elon Musk's eccentricity or whatever, is just a generational thing? Just he's younger. He's younger than us. We're old, worn out boomers, Andre. Or do you think it's kind of a family quirkiness or just a hereditary quirkiness? And it's just quirkiness for no better word. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with the generation. To be honest, I mean, I've seen eccentric people my age. Uh, you know, so I think it's the way it's your the way you're raised. I mean, there's people that tend to concentrate on uh, needing needing to be the center of things, and or don't really care. They don't have the same level of emotion as some of the other people when it comes to dealing with people. They're eccentric. They need a little bit of the attention. The more attention they get, the better it is. I would say, I'll challenge a little bit on the Henry Ford one. Uh, the car's been invented for years, Greg. Having the car being electric, there were electric cars before the gas motor. If you do the search, there's
Right.
been cars in the 1930s that were
Yeah.
electric. So he's taken an old idea and revamped it and created it in a way where I see his innovation is in SpaceX. That to me was inventive. Or the other one was the fast tunnel that connects his one office to another underground using high-speed electromagnetic field. A lot of this, you know, my in-laws, my mother-in-law and father-in-law. My mother-in-law was born in 1899, and my father-in-law was born in 1907. I don't think you and I will ever see, and maybe Gen X, the next generation will ever see technology move so fast as they have. If you think of these people that were born in the 1910 or 1920, pre-car, they've seen a car, they've seen a plane, they've seen people land on the moon, they've seen fast train, they've seen slow train, they've seen plastic, polyurethane, things that were invented in the last 50 or maybe 60 years before is amazing. And they were invented, not created. I don't call my stuff invented. I call that created with a lot of the knowledge and components that were already created in the past. So, is he an inventor? I say he's a great creator, and he's put things together of existing science and evolved those science into usable and capable things. And I'm not trying to deteriorate his knowledge. Please don't get me wrong. I think he's a very, very intelligent man to put these things together. But he used the word Tesla because his idea was also based on the Tesla capability, the Tesla knowledge. So there's a lot of things that we do today that were invented many moons ago, and that we're just taking and moving forward. I call that evolution rather than revolution. Your opinion?
Well, you got to get more detailed and smart about your answers, Andre. I just can't believe I just can't believe listening to you, man. How about this? Agree or disagree with this statement? Seriously. I had a buddy of mine back east, high-end businessman. He said to me, he said, Greg, computers are stupid. They can't do anything or know anything. They need a human, whether it's the programmer or the one who does the start button, but computers are stupid. Do you agree with that?
Computers are as smart as the people that put them together, but you also have to realize that computers are getting more intelligent because of the artificial intelligence. A lot of the, if I think, remember I talked about the vocoder in your phone, right? The vocoder is an electronic. There's a set of algorithms in that electronic that captures patterns. Doesn't matter what frequency it is. They're looking for pattern. Is it always the same? And actually can remove those patterns out of your voice to make your voice clearer. There's a lot of things today that we use that are I hate the word artificial intelligence because it is really a learning intelligence. They learn from patterns, words. You take a look at your phone, for example. Things like you use with Alexa or Google or Siri. It asks you to talk into it so it can learn your voice and learn your speech and learn your pattern and learn your pronunciation. This is based on how the human that programmed that the algorithms are captured, and then the algorithms are studied so that it could see that, okay, this word means this. I don't know if you ever use voice to text on your laptop. And when you talk, the first thing it asks you is read these words, read these words, read these words, and then it's ready. And you can actually write a whole letter by actually speaking to it. The person that created that program has created a set of algorithms that allows the computer to learn your patterns, learn your voice, learn your words, learn your pronunciation. And from there, the computer becomes more intelligent. So a new computer by itself with programs is a dumb computer, is really dumb. But as the computer evolves with your usage, it becomes more and more intelligent because it personalizes itself to you. You're driving the same way. When you get into your car, the way you drive your car, there's enough sensors in your car to know what type of, like the Sienna we have, it knows when I'm driving versus Louise drives.
Right.
Because it monitors your braking pattern, your application to your gas, your changing lanes and all that type of stuff. And from there, it can make the adjustment in your car to optimize the performance.
I think so.
Dumb computer, yeah.
I think though, Andre, I think that you just made my friend's point. Because even though computers are getting smarter, they still need that human and their habits for them to record their habits, correct? So I just tossing that out there because you're one of the smartest guys I know. I just like to challenge you. So they still need humans. Am I right?
If I'm the smartest, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yep,
there you go.
They do. So if I'm the smartest guy, you're in real trouble. You need to go out more often. Sorry, Val. Go ahead. I broke number 2 rule.
Speaking of rules, we have went over our 59-minute mark. I just couldn't stop you when we got there because we're getting to the really big meat and potatoes of this interview, and I'm so grateful, Andre, that you took the time. And Greg, thank you for setting this up, of coming on this platform and just being willing to share from your heart. And also, you know, you've shared some big stuff technologically that you've been a part of, and also the direction of where things are heading. So thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure, and it's also an honor to do that. I mean, you know, if people get more and more exposed to some of the stuff that's happening, I think there would be a lot less fear into, you know, into what's coming. The one thing I will say, I love technology, but I will say this. I am a little disappointed as to how we use the technology. One of the things that we talked about in the 5G was that, you know, we've got faster phones, the ability to do text, to do video, and so on and so forth. But I think we're also making a big mistake in a society perspective, and that is we've lost the human touch. We're replacing our human touch with the electronics, and that to me is my biggest mistake. I think that we lose the ability to disagree with each other without having to fight or kill each other. And that to me, I blame the technology that I work with for a lot of that. A lot of our young people today, they can only do things on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, text message, and when one of them annoys the other one, then it becomes a very violent interaction. And I think parents have a very difficult job to make sure that they understand that if you got a problem, face it, look at it, at the person. And the thing I always tell my son and my daughter, put yourself in the other person's shoe. Every once in a while, I used to annoy my son. He would tell me something that wasn't completely true, and I would say, "Okay, you be me, and I'll be you, and I'll repeat exactly what you said to me, and I will repeat exactly he said to me." And I said, "Oh, now, Dad, do you believe me?" And he would go. I said, "Now remember, you know the truth. I don't. I'm just using your words. Do you believe me?" And he would go, "No, it's not very believable, Dad. God, I hate doing that with you." So, you know, little role changing once in a while opens your eyes as to how does that come out, my friend.
I do have a couple of questions for you. You were talking about Elon Musk, your interaction with Elon, what that was like at a conference, I can only imagine. But I also have a very important question that has come in from my technical department. And the gentleman, the young man who is behind valolsonnews.com, takes his role very, very seriously. And he helped me prepare for the show today. So I just want to give a shout out to him because he is at home listening to this broadcast and keeping an eye on our website. And it's David. So, David, I do have your questions. So, before I'm even going to ask those Elon Musk questions, David, it's now time to ask your question. Did you use a binary system for caller ID? That's coming from David. Did you use a binary system for caller ID? And question 2 from David, what was the hardest problem for making standalone GPS?
So the binary, okay, so basically the way calling number ID is and caller name ID is basically taking in the DMS 100 that we used, everything is stored into memory in binary naturally, or hexadecimal is what we use more than anything else. And what we would do is, as the first ring goes out, we would look up the database of the calling number, and we would insert in a binary, and like similar to what they would use as an old modem, we would transmit the calling number, and at the phone end, it would take that phone number and regenerate the ASCII character. So the binary was actually created to do the transmission, but the data was stored in a hexadecimal in a database in the DMS 100 system. And what was the second question? You broke up a little bit, Val. and let me know if I did answer his question.
What was your hardest problem for making standalone GPS?
Well, we started to use GPS in around 2000, and the biggest challenge we had in those days is the federal government used to insert erroneous information in the GPS location, or really it's not a location. What it gives you is a timing, and the GPS actually takes that and uses the power and the timing to generate what the location is based on the calculations. The biggest challenge was to get an accurate location. When we started, the closest, the most accurate location we could get was 1,000 feet, and in 2002, the government stopped that process of putting erroneous information in the ephemeris. The other thing is that in those days, the GPS had three states, what they call cold start, warm start, and hot start. So cold start is when you buy a brand new GPS that has not had an ephemeris. Ephemeris is the way it works is the satellite dish. You got about 23 to 24 satellites in rotation in the orbit, and they transmit data. And based on that data, it tells you where the locations are, and also gives you a lot of the information on how to calculate the location. And some of those GPS were manufactured in China, so the ephemeris that they had was in China, was a Chinese ephemeris. So when you bring them to Canada, to the States, you would have to get it warm. You would have to get a warm start. Usually a warm start a cold start. A cold start will take up to 1.5 minutes to download the latest ephemeris so you could get the real location. Once it has the original ephemeris removed and the new ephemeris put in, every time you turn on your GPS, then it's a matter of updating. That's called a warm start. If you turn off your GPS and turn it on within, let's say, 30 seconds to a minute, then it's a hot start because they have very little difference. So getting all of those correct is always the challenge because the satellites are moving. Another challenge we had, because we were in Seattle, the satellites are traveling in different direction around the orbit of the Earth, and not all satellite goes north to south. So if you're further north in Canada, for example, like or the Yukon, you do not get a very good location. You'll get a location that could be half a mile, maybe 1,000 feet away in accuracy, because you need a minimum of 3 satellite information in order to get an accurate location. And that's in the north. That's very difficult. So there's a bunch of challenges we faced with the GPS. And with GPS, the gentlemen that I had with me working on the GPS were from Boeing. I hired 2 PhDs from Boeing and a master's degree from University of Washington to put this thing together, working with them. And these guys knew about the GPS, but I can tell you, sometime I was in the fog when they start talking about all the stuff they had to do, and I go like, just give me the high level, guys, because it's not an easy technology to learn. I mean, it's easier today because it's more prevalent, but in those days, GPS were used in the Army and the Armed Forces, and a lot of the GPS satellite were owned by the Air Force itself.
2 thumbs up.
Any other question, David?
Two
Okay.
thumbs up. I think, yep, he's got it. Okay, so my next question.
And if you
Go ahead.
and if Dave ever have any other question or wants to talk to me, just give him my I'm on LinkedIn, so he could go on LinkedIn, and I got my LinkedIn and my CV. You can give it to him, and he can call me anytime. Be more than happy.
Wow, David, I hope you're hearing that and recognizing your hard work, your dedication to working hard is now paying off in real time. David is a great kid. He helps me behind the scenes with the website, and also he's a junior leader in our Sunday school class. So
Good.
yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. So great questions, David. Next question is back to Elon Musk. I am curious, when you met him, in the first couple of minutes that you spent with him one-on-one, could you see similarities between yourself and him, and just the weight of, your life and where he's at and what he's going to be walking into tomorrow? That's not a very good question, but I'll let you untangle that.
No, that's a good no, that's a good question. Um, how do I'm going to be simple and blunt. When I meet people, um, I try not to judge them with me, simply because it's not fair. I don't know what shoes they've had, where they walk, where they're from. What I'm more interested in is getting to know them. And this is true through, if I, just like I meet you, I meet Greg, it's, I want to know what you've done. I want to know why you're doing this. What's your thought process? And we talked about 5G and the autonomous car. Most of my conversation with him was with SpaceX. I think, this is phenomenal. Having private capability of getting people up in the air and go to different planets. I think that's the next stage for us. What's the value of going to space? There could be numerous value. I mean, expand our capability of forestry or whatever, learning how certain plants react into a different atmospheric environment. How does human work with that? I mean, there's a lot of people, astronauts have gone up in the, up in the moon and up orbit the Earth, and so on, worked in the space lab. What's their afterlife? I mean, after they leave, what are the side effects? What are the type of things they've learned? I'd love to read about John Glenn. I mean, most of you may not know him. Even Greg, he's too young for that. It's it, what happened to him? It's true. So I like to meet people because every time I meet somebody, I get enriched, and that's the part that's critical in life. I mean, nobody, when I die, nobody will give a hoot about my patent, but my family will. My family will remember me. And that to me is critical. If you can remember this conversation when I passed away, phenomenal. I made an impact and you made an impact to me. And that's important. Is What's important to me is getting to know you. Just like Dave. I mean, I love his questions for a young man that, you know, it's that means he's interested in something. He's got capabilities. He's willing to learn something. He's not afraid to ask. And I think a lot of people should go out and, I mean, simple question. How many of you have met your neighbors? Had a beer with them? Had a cup of coffee? It's it's just getting to know these people. That's so when I met Elon Musk, the reason why I met with him is because I was interested in what he was talking about. I was interested in getting some of his ideas. I wanted his opinion on 5G. I said absolutely nothing about me. He asked me how I was. He asked me, where I work and what my involvement was with 5G. But the majority of the conversation was me asking him questions so I could get to know what he was doing. And I loved it.
I love that he asked you how you were doing. I think that that's the human element, that it doesn't matter, how great or
Yeah.
technological advances you make, you either care about people or you don't. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
Twitter comes in. I think, like, you look at his life experience, now he's thrown into this role of being judge and jury. Essentially, he controls how many friends I can have, or if my broadcast will even make it out the gate tomorrow. That's a huge
Uh-huh.
weight to put on someone's head. And I was just curious if you could have handled that back in your day, or have we just evolved so much more today as this generation where, oh yeah, he can be saddled down with that responsibility too. Could that potentially push technology backwards by, putting a weight on him that could have outcomes that maybe we haven't considered?
I don't think that Elon Musk is going to manage all of that. He will surround himself. I don't know. 2 weeks ago, he asked everybody at Twitter if he should step down as CEO. And he got a very high number of saying yes. And his comment was, sometimes you shouldn't ask what you don't want the answer to be. But, he's debating, does he want to continue to do this? I don't think we're at the point where one person can do everything. I mean, if you think you are, you're pompous. I'm sorry, but that's the way I think about it. If you think you could do all of this by yourself, you are heavily mistaken. You cannot be a high quality person in such a diversified program and do it right. You'll make decisions, I guarantee. But will they be the right decision? Will it kill your product? Possibly. So, we need each other. I mean, that's what companies are for. It's the sum of all of the people working with you that makes you a success. If you don't believe that, then don't start a company. Become a consultant and hope you can get a good job. I strongly believe that. I mean, it's like a family, Val. I mean, if you're the one that makes all the decision for your 17-year-old son, he will never ever make a decision. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm giving that as an example. What to do?
That's true.
Then he will never do what he wants. He'll do what I want him to do. What happens to him when I die? He's got nobody to tell him what to do. He becomes a mute. So it's important for people to feel that you've got a gift that's waiting to be opened. Open it. And let them share. So Elon Musk is not going to make that happen by himself. I can guarantee you. Even if he doesn't put your podcast up, he's got my message. Use the people you have there. Make sure you're surrounded by the right people and give them a vision to move forward and instill that vision and let them walk that vision and they will work. The only way to success. That's what he did with Tesla. That's what he did with SpaceX. And I suspect that's what he will do with Twitter. Or you will sell it.
Greg, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to say desk my deal.
That's kind of
I want to work there.
That's kind of an inside joke, Val. Very good. I did not realize this. I kind of did. We hit the 2-hour mark, and I have absolutely no clue. I just have no clue how we get the rest of the information on the table, because I'm sitting here saying we've gone through 2 hours, which seemed like 5 minutes, and I know you have, and I have endless questions for Andre. It's unbelievable. I would, and this is a little bit off the wall a little bit, but I don't know if you or Andre are available tomorrow at the same time, because we could sit here honestly, and I don't know if I've been through this kind of experience on radio where I literally wanted to spend another hour or another hour. But I don't know if you guys are open, but I honestly, off the wall, I'd suggest maybe doing a follow-up program, maybe same bat time, same bat station tomorrow, which would be Tuesday, because I've got about 3 or 4 big ones for Andre. One being, you want a teaser, Val? Do you want a teaser here?
Yes,
one of the stories I just had noted down is Andre Fournier has just become, or recently, a U.S. citizen, and has an immigration story that I've never heard before. Andre Fournier, and this is not long ago, this is recent history, was stuck in Canada for 6 months, I believe. I'm not sure, but I'm not even going to let him chat about it yet. and dealt with immigration, dealt with citizenship, dealt with Canada, and the answer to that, how it turned out, I don't even want to share right now because I'd want to hear that from Andre. But the net of it is Andre Fournier is a new dual citizen. He's a new U.S. citizen, and he's extremely opinionated in that world, especially when it comes to the old Canada. But just the immigration story alone, Andre's immigration story alone, that's a recent one. That's a hour show right there. So it sounds, again, it sounds kind of last minute, but if both of you, Val and Andre, would be available to let's do part two tomorrow. Part deux, like they say, comme on dit en français, au Québec, André à Montréal, avec les Canadiens de Montréal, à la prochaine, demain, peut-être demain. Hein?
Let's talk to Val. Val's the boss.
Well, absolutely. I'm on board.
I'm available, Val.
Wonderful. Well, then it's a date tomorrow. So we will invite our listeners to come back. And for those of you that are tuning in late to the show, wow, you've got to go back and listen. And this has been like nothing I've ever been a part of. So thank you both for taking the time today and just sharing and letting me ask all kinds of questions. And this is one of those conversations that for me, I don't want to forget any second of it. I'm changed. You guys both have hit my targets, and there's stuff in here I will carry with me for a lifetime. So thank you.
Well, it's the same over here. I always like to share things with people, and you guys are a good listener. And Val, your pod is really interesting. I'm enjoying it, and I'll listen to other part. And I'm available tomorrow. And to your listeners, just wait till tomorrow. You'll have another piece. And
Wonderful.
This time we'll do it in French.
I better get a translator fast.
Hey, Greg, ese hablo español?
No, I don't, but I'm going to. I'm living on the border now. I'm halfway there, but I got to learn Spanish in the next year or two, so I'll be able to keep my U.S. citizenship. You know what I mean?
They're going to let you stay?
En question finale, pour André, en question finale. Okay. Honestly, and this, I just want seriously one quick question. I've never been a part of a radio experience like this, and Val just said that. I want to ask you, Andre, when's the last time you did like an interview, a radio interview, and have you done anything honestly like this? I'm serious. Because you know me, building ice arenas, I like to be first. I like to be only one, whatever. But talk to me about that. How long has it been? And honestly, objectively, right between the eyes, what do you think of this last 2 hours? Seriously.
Well, I've never I've never allowed myself to be on a radio station simply because I think that there are people that are as knowledgeable and more knowledgeable than I am. I tend to keep stuff to myself. I share things with my family, and I just do what I do because that's what I want to do. If I shared some wisdom with some of you, well, that's good. I'm happy. And to me, this has been a very good conversation. It did, sometimes you got to talk about the stuff you do in order to realize some of the stuff you've done. It's similar to what I used to tell my kids in hockey. I used to take a video of all of them at the start of the season, and I would do another one in the middle of the season, and then at the end of the season. And I would capture those three into a single videotape for every one of them. And at the end of the year, I would show it to them. It's amazing. They sit there and they consider the advancement. Well, sometimes just talking about what you've achieved and what you do and what's important in life to you sometimes make you realize that, hey, that's not too bad. And I really enjoyed talking to you guys. You asked a lot of good questions, and I'm humble. I really am.
Well, that's a wrap. Same time, same place tomorrow. You can get more information on my website, valolsonnews.com.
Thank you.